Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm so grateful to be here with you this afternoon. We are so thankful for the wonderful partnership between these two congregations and the many good feelings that has enriched in all of us. I'd like to begin my few words this afternoon with a story. There was once a man who thought he had a tough life. He found no joy in his work or his family or his community. He was always envious of what his friends and family and neighbors had, and he knew that he could never afford such nice things. And so he prayed to God to show him a better place. He said, "God, show me to paradise." "Very well," replied God, who showed him the way to paradise. And as it turned out, paradise wasn't so far away, just a few days' journey from his village. So late one afternoon, he set out on his way. He walked and walked and walked until nightfall and decided that he would rest beneath a leafy tree. Just before he fell asleep, it occurred to him that in the morning, he might get confused and forget which was the way to paradise and which was the way back to his village. Perhaps he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Regardless, he wanted to find a way that he could remember in the morning which way to go. So he left his shoes by the roadside with the tips of them pointing towards paradise, so that in the morning all he'd have to do is get into his shoes and walk on his way. However, somehow during the night, the man's shoes got turned around. And in the morning, he rose, feeling rested from his sleep, and prepared to set off on his journey. He went to the roadway, stepped into his shoes, and he began walking, unaware that he was, in fact, returning home. By noon, he could see a village on the next hillside, and his heart leapt. "I've arrived in paradise," he thought. He ran down into the valley and up the hill, not stopping until he arrived at the gates of the village. "What a beautiful place in paradise," he thought. "My village was always so crowded and noisy, but this is different. It's so filled with life and joy." After a while, he began to feel hungry. He thought to himself, "Well, since paradise looks so much like my village, I wonder if there's a street in paradise like my street." And just where he thought it might be, there it was. And look, a house just like mine as well. Just as he was wondering at the marvelous coincidence, a woman came to the door, a woman who bore a striking resemblance to his wife. The woman called his name and said, "Come on in for dinner." His heart leapt again. "They know me in paradise. There is a place set for me in paradise? How wonderful is this?" So he entered the house. The house in paradise was nothing like his house in the village. The house at home was always crowded and cluttered and filled with commotion. This place was cozy and homey and filled with life. It's as if he became a realtor. He sat at the table and he ate the best meal he'd ever eaten, and he complimented the woman on her heavenly soup. Afterward, he went up to his bedroom and entered the deepest, most restful sleep he'd ever known. Do you know that in all the years that followed, nobody could convince this man that he hadn't made it to paradise? Every one of his days from then on was filled with more wonder and purpose and joy, more life than the day before. He was so grateful for his new life that he thanked God every day for bringing him to paradise. This has, for a long time, been one of my favorite stories. While it's completely ridiculous on one hand, on the other hand, it reminds us of this timely message, which is at the core of both of our traditions, that gratitude fills our lives with meaning. I wonder why we often have such a hard time seeing the beauty in our own lives. It seems to be a human condition that no matter how great our circumstances are, we tend to focus on what we don't have rather than what we do have. We focus on our dreams not yet realized, on our desires not yet fulfilled. It's like we have a built-in success blind spot and we can't look past it. So as we look forward to Thanksgiving this Thursday, I'd like to focus on an extremely common phenomenon in our culture and our psyche, that no matter how good things are, no matter what we do or how much we have, we can't seem to shake that feeling that it's not good enough. That we're not smart enough or rich enough or thin enough or young enough, or we didn't make enough money or haven't found the right partner, or we don't have enough friends, we don't communicate with our family enough, we don't give enough recognition, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough love. and nothing will convince us otherwise. We just don't have enough. Well, there's a rabbi who argues that this is perhaps in our combined Judeo-Christian DNA. If we think back to the story of the Exodus, which I know you all are studying in depth, we know that the Israelites went from slavery to freedom, and we see an example of this. We think about it for a moment. The Israelites were enslaved for 430 years in Egypt. Finally, they have been freed. God not only sent 10 plagues to the Egyptians, but also miraculously parted the Sea of Reeds so they could cross to freedom on the other side. And they crossed the sea, and they celebrated. And just days later, what are the Israelites doing? They're complaining. Moses, it's hot out here. There's not enough food. My sciatica's acting up. I'm thirsty. There's no cell service out here. Here the Israelites had, for the first time, a taste of freedom. No shackles around their ankles, no pyramids to build. And what happens? They complain about what they don't have. They are blind to the miracle of their own survival. They are only aware that what they have isn't enough. We learn from Pirkei Avot, which is a Jewish ethical volume, that there was once this scholar named Ben Zoma. Ben Zoma asked, "Who is rich?" And the answer may be surprising here. He writes, "The rich person is not somebody who has the private jet." Ben Zoma doesn't go on to name all the rich people in the Bible or the rich people of his time. He teaches us who is rich, the person who is happy with what he has. The person who is sameach bechelko, who is happy with his portion of the world. The rich person isn't rich because of the amount of stuff he has. The rich person is the one who can find happiness even if the cards are stacked against him. Is the person who can find happiness even though he's not where he wants to be and he's turning 50. Even though that book that she's been working so hard on has not yet been published. Even though he's fallen on hard times and can't afford the luxuries he once had. Even though he can't seem to shake those 20 or 30 pounds. Even though she is the only one of her friends who is still single. What would this look like for us to be sameach bechelko, to be happy with our portion? What we have isn't everything, but what we have is actually pretty good. Perhaps what we have is enough to have a great life. Ben Zoma decided that this made sense to him one day when he was sitting down to eat. He looked down at this piece of bread that was sitting on his plate, and in that moment he realized all that had to happen, how many people had to work so that this bread could be sitting on the plate in front of him. The farmer planting the crops and later harvesting, the right amount of rain and sunlight to grow, the man who prepared the grain to be used, the baker who combined the grain with other ingredients, the shopkeeper who sold him the bread. Once he was conscious to what had to happen in order for him to be able to eat, his perspective completely changed. He was thankful to God for the first time for the blessings in his life. His shoes were turned in the other direction. Ben Zoma later taught that we are supposed to say 100 blessings a day to awaken our hearts to the world around us. We're supposed to be thankful 100 times every single day. Think about that for a moment. If we opened our hearts and our minds to gratitude and we were thankful 100 times each day, how different would our lives be? Perhaps we'd spend less time complaining about the line at Starbucks and more time appreciating those pumpkin spice lattes or whatever we are enjoying. Embracing gratitude can help us add meaning to our lives and give us a new perspective if we have perhaps been feeling stuck. But what if we feel like we have nothing for which to be grateful? What if we happen to be at a low point at the moment? There's another rabbi named Harold Kushner, who you might know wrote this book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. He wrote some other ones since then, and one of them is 9 Essential Things I've Learned About Life. And he wrote that the best way to embrace an attitude of gratitude in our lives, to change our perspective and add meaning to every day, no matter what shape our lives are in, is to start helping other people. He tells a story about a woman who came to see him once when he was still a congregational rabbi. "Rabbi," she said, "tell me why I should go on living." The woman asked, and she went on, she said, "There are no medical issues, my health is good, there are no financial problems, we put our boys through state college and are paying our bills. I just feel that most of the nice things that will ever happen to me have already happened, and I have nothing to look forward to. Neither of my boys is a serious girlfriend, so I certainly don't have a wedding coming up anytime soon. And if I don't get along with his future girlfriend's parents, I won't even want to go to the wedding in the first place. Kushner listened and listened and listened, and then stopped her and gave her some important advice. He said, "The thing that is concerning me about what you said is that it's all about what other people were or were not doing for you. And that's something that we don't have control over. I didn't hear anything," he said, "about what you were doing for other people." That might be the exact thing to start changing. The easiest way to feel better about your life. It comes directly from the book of Genesis. Find someone you can take by the hand and guide them to a new land, to a better place. When you volunteer to help someone, you are not only helping that person, but you're helping yourself as well. Helping another person is empowering. Think of it this way. If someone's in a bad way and you try to help him by giving him money, he'll appreciate that, but you'll have fewer resources than when you started. But if you give the person a message that you care about him, that you listen sympathetically to his story instead of interrupting it and telling him what to do, you'll be strengthening him even as you feel better about yourself. Perhaps it's the ultimate secret to unlocking life's 100 blessings every day. When we reach out to someone in need, when we serve food at the YWCA family shelter, when we listen to a friend in crisis, when we take care of an aging parent, when we teach a child, when we fight for causes in which we believe, we are linking our daily existence to helping someone else, and we are becoming someone else's blessing. So as we approach Thanksgiving, the question is, can we really be thankful? Can we have a Ben Zoma moment where we awaken to the many blessings that surround us each day? 100 blessings a day. That sounds like a lot? Okay, start with 10 or 5 or even 3 and keep a little journal and see if you can write down at the end of the day 3 blessings, 3 great things that happen throughout the day. In these days leading to Thanksgiving and then to the Christmas and Hanukkah season, perhaps our goal could work to identify just a few blessings every day. And if there's someone for whom you are thinking of this afternoon, for whom you are particularly grateful, maybe give them a call as you drive home this afternoon and thank them for being your blessing. During this next month, may we focus to find the many blessings in our lives. May we endeavor to help someone in need connect in meaningful ways. And when we get home tonight, may we take off our shoes and may we turn them back to what is most important, enabling us to say, "Thank you, God, for the marvelous blessing that is my life." Say to that, amen.